but I'm here to tell you about the Internet of Things, and especially on your wrists. So I don't know, has anyone here got a band? I know Oleg has one. There's 2, 3, 4. All right. No, that doesn't count.
Oh.
They're a bit scarce. So I'm going to introduce what IoT is, in case you don't know, and some of the things you can do with it. And we'll start with, basically, has anyone heard of Internet of Things? That should be everybody. Yes. There's one person going. Internet of Things is a very, very, very broad term, and it sort of means exactly what it says. It's things, right? There's no real definition of what things are because it can be anything. It's a very ambitious project, I guess, but it's sort of like the internet. It's built by everybody. So there's not a single company that does Internet of Things. It's available to everybody. And these things that are connected is basically, that's the definition, a proposed development of the internet in which everyday objects have network connectivity, allowing them to send and receive data, which is pretty simple. So it can be anything, right, that sends and receives data. And that's the idea of it, that you can connect anything to the internet. Doesn't matter what it is. And I forgot to say, if you have questions, comments, whatever, just yell out, okay? You know, don't have to be too Danish to just say what you think. That's okay. So they estimate that in about 2020, which is only 5 years away, there's going to be 30 billion devices on this. Like, so we're not talking small numbers. It's huge, like it's massive. And each of these is going to have an IP address, which is why we now have IPv6. That's the main reason, because we can't connect everything with the current paradigm that we have. So what is IoT? What are we actually looking at? So the first example of IoT was a Coke machine. And it was in America in 1982, and some clever people put a CPU and some other gadgets inside a Coke vending machine to figure out what's the status of the temperature and what's remaining, how many bottles are left. And that was the first documented example of what we call IoT. The actual IoT, the moniker of saying IoT or Internet of Things didn't come out till 1999. That was an entrepreneur that just sort of, threw it out, as in a presentation, and it just stuck. So it's sort of a colloquial term, Internet of Things. It can mean whatever you want it to mean. Like, it really is that vague. So now we're talking things that are connected, basically. Does that make sense? Yeah? Should be relatively simple to grasp. But 30 billion devices, holy moly. That's a hell of a lot of devices. So examples of what this could be, because it's easy to say we connect everything, but like, do you have your couch talking to a car? It's got to make sense, right? So the first example I have is it's a coffee machine. So I think Oleg said earlier that he had seen examples of coffee machines. So why would you connect your coffee machine to the internet? Any ideas? Like, what could possibly be the idea of connecting your coffee machine to the internet? Like,
when it's finished, you can fill it again.
You can fill it again?
Yeah.
But you're right next to it. Wouldn't you be? If you
You could make it tweet every time it makes coffee.
There you go. Yeah.
Right.
See? Useful.
For example,
right?
you wake up in the morning, it's gonna just be ready.
But you can just do that with a timer today.
Maybe you are calling back.
Yeah, but then it's going to be connected to your calendar.
That's true. One of the really cool things I thought about this is that you can put a geolocation or geofence on it. So when you're 10 kilometers from your house, it starts brewing. Like, it doesn't have to do with time. It's just purely geographical location. I thought that was cool. That's one of the things that makes it value add, right? Like, putting a time on it, yeah, all right. Telling you when it's finished on your phone, well, you're probably going to be next to it anyway. So, there are things about these things that make sense, and there are some things that just go, well, it does that already. Are we just complicating things? But the geofencing, I think, is very cool. And, of course, they all have an app. Got to have an app. So there's an iPhone app or an Android app, or if you're really lucky, there's a Windows Phone app, hopefully. I'd like that, but that's just me. All right. So, coffee machines. Another thing that's come out is shoes. IoT shoes. Again, I read about this and went, why? Why would you want your shoes to talk to the internet? It turns out that these guys have a bit better, bit broader idea of using it, I guess. So this thing here is the diagram that they put out that's meant to sell it. I'm like, what, really? It doesn't make any sense. But what it is, it has underneath your sole in your shoe, you have some pressure pads, and they're connected to a like a thing that sits on the side of your shoe that measures the three dimensions. And you can then simulate stuff like jumping out of an airplane, parachute. So you jump and it knows and it feels your pressure and whatever. And you can have virtual reality thing like maybe the HoloLens or the Oculus Rift or whatever you're using. That'll connect to it, and then you can simulate that your feet is doing the right thing in that world. I guess that makes sense. What they've also used, which I think is a much better purpose, is they can use this for medical purposes. So if you have someone that's doing rehabilitation, so learning how to walk again, they can actually adjust the way that they walk by seeing exactly what's happening and what the walking is, which they use cameras for today. But this is way more accurate. There are, in these insole things, there are 65,000 layers of pressure points. Like, it's massive amount of data you can get out of it. Shoes. I don't know. Maybe. Could be. Let's get a bit more, well, I guess, familiar. Toothbrush. Would you want your toothbrush to be connected to the internet? So what my friend here is saying is that you can connect to your fridge so it knows what you've eaten. Not sure how the fridge does that. Does it know what you take? Anyway. But then the toothbrush then is connected to your fridge so it knows what you've eaten and what you should do to your teeth, I'm guessing. Yeah? You know, I don't know if that's a bit too weird. Does it do it automatically then? Like, oh, yeah?
I kind of get that, not with the fridge, but with the guidance on how to do your brush your teeth. The Japanese company. Okay,
there you go. Is that also an IoT device?
Yes.
Right. So it's already coming. Yeah.
Thinking in general, these small devices, it's a hard time to get a decent UI on them.
Oh yeah.
If you do the Internet of Things.
That's right. Well, you wouldn't have a UI. That's right. You wouldn't have a UI on your toothbrush. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You might have, say, it's got 40 minutes of battery time left, but other than that. What I thought about it is, what about, so this particular device doesn't do it. It just tells you how long you brushed it for, and there's an app, and it does how thorough you were with your brushing. But what if it could detect cavities or other problems in your gums, and it could then book an appointment directly with your dentist? Useful? Maybe? I don't know. It hasn't been done yet, but I thought maybe if you you just get a notification that you need to go to the dentist, and you go, thank you, Mr. Toothbrush. No, it's kind of like that. And then, obviously, these are all sort of consumer-level things that we're talking about now, which is cool for you and I because we're sitting here and we go, oh, that's a cool gadget, and we like tech and whatnot. But if you're, for example, a farmer, and you have these guys, I mean girls, walking around, they don't really care about internet at all, and farmers especially don't like tech in general. I live in the country. And what a Dutch company has done is they've actually created a full solution for cows and for milking and for that detects where the udders are and if there's any diseases and how often and how much milk and where they are and how often and everything about tracking these. And what that allows the farmers to do is sit back and monitor the whole herd or the flock or whatever it's called, herd of cows, on the computer and just pretty much just take care of the sick ones. Like, you don't have to worry about the ones that are doing fine. And if you take it one step further, this is their sort of diagram for how to get this stuff into mainstream farming. And I don't get it. I don't know what that means. But, you got GPS data, you got some weather feeds, and all of this you put into the cloud, and then you get some reports out, and it's secure. Thank God it's secure. But what they did say in the blurb is that you can actually implement a whole IoT. There's no limit on the number of IoT devices that you can connect to this thing. So you could have, like we were talking about earlier, have gates. When are the gates open and closed? Like if you have staff. Where the cows go on the paddock mostly, and does that produce better milk? And there's like all of these different things that will improve the farmer's life and his bottom line. It's all about, well, if I pay for this, where do I get the money from? So it does have huge potential, like massive. So, has anyone here got kids?
Yeah.
I've got some, 2, I think. Yeah, and you go through a lot of these. Am I right? Yeah, you know where this is going. You know where this is going. Would you want your nappies, diapers, whatever you call them, connected to the internet?
Yeah.
You say yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
It can ring to the mobile that changes.
But you can just smell. It works really well. You go, oh. No? I seriously, this is what they're doing. I'm not kidding. So obviously this is a prototype. You don't need to have a CPU in every one of them. But this is Intel. This is Intel doing this, Intel research. So they're developing a small chip that goes into each diaper, nappy, whatever the word is, so you can monitor via an app when to change your kid. Well, to me, I kind of...
that they could analyze whether the urine is healthy, is the kid
Sure.
dehydrated or not.
Yeah. Well, there are other purposes, I'm sure. But it's just when you hear it, my immediate reaction was, really? What? Like, it was just so far out. Like, because changing nappies, you just use your nose, right? It's not rocket science. But I guess, yeah, that's a good point. What if you could analyze what comes out the other end? What came in? You connect it to a fridge. Hey! Hey, see? Right, so that was my brief introduction. Who am I? Like, I'm just here rambling. My name's Lars. I'm an MVP. If you know what that means, it means I talk a lot and I'm very loud. And Microsoft says, hey, here's a label, put it on your email. And you get some class stuff. Anyway, I do Pluralsight courses. Has anyone here heard of Pluralsight? Oh, that's pretty good. Because for the people that haven't or would like to, I did bring some free cards if you want. 30 days of all you can eat. Pretty good. And yeah, there's no limits on them. Like if you sign up on the website, you get 20 hours or something. But that's 30 days of everything. So I have, I don't know, first in, best dressed. I have about 40 of them, I think. So if you want some of those, come up afterwards. If you can. I can throw them. I organize a conference, so I really like community. I'm all about community. Because I think that you guys are here, it's awesome, because I get to talk to you, and I get new ideas, and you get new ideas, and it just works, right? So I do this conference with a bunch of other people called DDD, or Developer, which is based on, big sweaty guy, in Melbourne, and we're doing it for 6 years this time, and there's about 350 people coming, which is pretty cool. And it's all done voluntarily. It's $50 to go, which is 250 krona or thereabouts, and it's grown every year. And this year we had to say no to sponsors. Like, it's awesome. That's how cool the community is. Everybody wants to be a part of it. I do a podcast, which some people in here have heard. I ramble a lot, as I said. The Dane and the Pain, that doesn't show up very well, does it? No. The Dane and the Pain. I'm the Dane, and a guy I've never met is the Pain. So we talk to each other about stuff. Very entertaining, I think. I run a B&B, a bed and breakfast, called Meeting on Homesteads, because I can't all do development, right? And then I got this website where I write stuff. Anyway, but if you want to get hold of me, that's the easiest way. Twitter, by far. That's what I get in trouble for at home. All right. So, we are here because of this. So, have you all heard of the band? Anyone doesn't know anything about the band at all? The Microsoft band. You don't know? Yeah. Excellent. Very good. So, a much cooler way of showing it is this. Because it is quite, so it's what I'm wearing here, right? It's this size. That's it, right? So it's sort of a clunky watch, basically. Like, it's a little bit stiff, but it's pretty, it's reasonably comfortable. Sits on your wrist however you want it, and it has all of that stuff in it. Like, it's massive. It is essentially a prototype that Microsoft made. So they did this in one of their labs after hours. A bunch of people saying, we can do a fitness device. We can do it, we can do it better than everybody else. And they launched it last year as a sort of a trial in America. There wasn't any big fanfare about it, and they sold out in a day. Like, all of them gone. So they're scrambling, we've got to make more. But it's terribly, terribly hard to find. I think it's out in the UK. Would you know, Hannes? UK? Yes. But that's it. Like, you cannot get it anywhere else. Oh, I forgot to say, I live in Australia. I don't know if it's obvious by the accent. I always forget that bit. But I am Farolo. Yeah. So, and this thing here is just look at it. Seriously, just look at the amount of things that are in it. It's like, go home, Apple Watch. It's just that amount of sensors and whatnot in it. You cannot share your heart rate with your loved one, but other than that, it's got everything the Apple Watch does. It has 10 sensors. So let's talk about those. So sensors meaning stuff that records data, right, inside of it. So there's 10 of them in this little tiny thing. The first one is an accelerometer, which most of your phones will have anyway. It basically just measures in G's how fast you're moving in one direction or another in three-dimensional space. And I should say all of these, except the GPS for some reason, you can programmatically query and find out stuff about. I'm not sure about the GPS, probably because it drains the battery, something shocking. So there's an accelerometer. There's a gyroscope, which is also probably in most of your phones, which is another way of measuring 3D space, in terms of velocity. I can't remember the units they use for it. It has a distance measure, and that measures whether you're walking or not. So there's like a Boolean, yes, no, am I walking? It measures how fast you are, excuse me, and it'll show you, so many steps per minute, that sort of information, which can be really handy if you have, because you can write apps for this. That's why we're here, right? Which I'll get to. Heart rate, which is beats per minute, pretty simple stuff, but could be really cool if you have some sort of... Sorry?
So you can share your heart rate with
you can write an app, so you can share it possibly. But yeah, you can get the heart rate out, but there's no native way of actually sharing it. I don't know why you would. Anyway, vibrates every time.
Excited, are you?
Yeah, exactly. Who? So the heart rate gets that. It have a pedometer, sure way you want to say it, which measures how far you've gone, how many steps you've taken. Which I'm intrigued by this thing, because it used to be something you put on your belt. Like my mum has one of those, and it's about this size, right? And it says, 500 steps. And now it's, hey?
How's that different from distance?
So the distance says velocity, basically. So many steps per minute.
Oh.
That just measures purely how far you've gone. So there's two different ways of doing it. But the distance is really handy for the yes, no. Am I moving or not? Am I walking or not? I think there's a numeration on that also tells you whether you're running or walking, from memory. This is all very new. That's why I'm here talking about it. Skin temperature. So it actually measures your skin temperature, which could be very, very handy for lots of medical applications if you have apps that integrate with that. And it's just in Fahrenheit or centigrade. UV. That's particularly useful in Australia because we fry everything. I have not worn sunscreen a single time since I've been here. And I'm still not pink. If I go outside for a couple of hours at home, I just go lobster. It's crazy the amount of UV compared to here. So the UV sensor can measure, obviously you have to be outside, but it measures how intense the sun is basically. So it'll give you advice on what to do. And you also see, there's another, sorry, I like stories. Kids in Australia are all rugged up, especially in summer. They have more clothes on than winter almost because they have hats and they have little things go down their neck and they've got long sleeve shirts and just not to get burnt. So if you haven't been to Australia or you're going to and you want to go there, bring sunscreen because it's crazy. It really does burn. What's the next one? Band contact. I forgot what that one is. Oh well, that's another one. Oh yeah, that's right. It's just a Boolean. It says, have I got contact to the phone or not? Is there a Bluetooth connection or not? That's all it does. Calories, it'll measure how many calories you've spent doing whatever it is you're doing. And there's a GPS. So the GPS, obviously, you can see where you've run. Just to put all this stuff, because that's a bit vague and arbitrary, you can download exercise programs for it via your phone app that goes on it, and it'll actually measure how many push-ups you're doing. Curls, all this stuff. It'll measure that for you. So it's really, really accurate. I had a Fitbit before, and the steps on this are much more accurate in terms of as I walk 2 steps, it counts 2 steps. Where the Fitbit, you couldn't really tell unless you had the app how many steps. They might have improved it by now, I don't know. But it was nowhere near as accurate as this is. So it's, as an engineering feat, it's quite remarkable, in my opinion. Next thing is there's this thing here. So this is the app. I'll just come over here and step on you. That's the app that comes with it on Windows Phone, and that's obviously on a Surface tablet because we're talking Microsoft here, right? All of this links into something called the Microsoft Health Portal, which is something that's been around for a while and no one really knows what it is. But with the band, they've sort of tried, it's basically a centralization of health data, and anyone can plug into it. So it has an API. So you can use your band and you can integrate that with Runkeeper. So your Runkeeper app will work with your band, so you know how far you've run. It'll have whatever the other apps are there on there. But it allows anyone to build something that puts data into Microsoft Health. Google had something similar, and when I was researching this talk, I looked it up, and it said it's been discontinued, and all data has been deleted. So I'm not sure if there have been privacy issues or something. Not sure, but Google Health is no more. But it was a similar initiative to this, and I think Apple has something called Health as well, Apple Health, which I'm guessing is something similar. Yeah.
Well, it has Google Fit now, right?
Google Fit, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
But I don't believe it has the same integration as this. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at it that much. I just know that from a integration and sort of centralization point of view, it really doesn't care where you're from. Like, just shoot data into Microsoft Health Portal, and then anyone can read it out with that same user profile. Okay. And that's, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Hannes, we have a Microsoft person here. But Microsoft's new strategy is that we don't care where you're from. As long as you want to use a Microsoft service, we love you. So you don't have to be on the Microsoft bandwagon and use everything, like I'm doing, in the universe that says Microsoft on it to use any of the services. And that's part of it. You can see they even have a watch on there, which could be, you know, an Android watch. And there's a Jawbone, which is that one. That's another fitness device. So it doesn't really matter. Anything puts data in there, and then you have one app that shows you the
There's also the app, meaning you can use an Android phone with your band instead.
That's coming.
Okay.
I'm glad you said that, because you can also use your Android phone. Again, Microsoft doesn't care. So the band works with your iPhone or your your Android device. It doesn't matter. There's the same level of support for each app. It's not like if there's 10 new features coming for an iPhone app, then 2 of them will go on Windows Phone, right? That's usually how it works, unfortunately. This has been promised that it'll have full feature coverage across everything. So if you have an iPhone, excellent, you can still use the band. And they do the same thing. Like it's quite interesting. The most interesting part I found about this was tracking my sleep. So there's a button you can press that says, I'm sleeping. But it also does it automatically if you don't move. And I never knew how little I slept. Like it's quite remarkable how I slept and how little it actually was. So, not that changed anything, but I still sleep not very much. Did you want to add anything, Jonas, to that? No? Okay.
Do you know the algorithm for the sleeping stuff?
The algorithm?
Yeah, Lars is asking me, can you get the algorithm, because he can't understand why he always gets this low score in his sleep. Even whatever he tries to do.
Yeah, I don't know, but I would say that if you press the button, there's an action button on the band and says, I'm sleeping, then it'll say, oh, you're sleeping. So unless you're walking around and actually measures distance or that you're mobile, then it'll say you're sleeping. If it auto detects it, I'm guessing that it says, oh, you're not moving. Oh, you moved a bit. You're probably not sleeping then anyway. You know, it's much more vague what is sleep and what is not.
Yeah,
but the algorithm?
Yeah, because I think it depends on how much you slept, how deep you slept, the sleep was. And
it certainly does that, yeah.
But he says every time he's sleeping for 8 hours in a row and it shows deep sleep and all, he's still only get a moderator or something.
And that's on the band?
And that's on the band.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
You can detect it using the heart rate.
Yeah, the heart rate, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's also depending.
So it shows you, for example, when you are seated or you are awake, the heart rate is more than the time that you are asleep. And you can detect it.
Yeah, because I reckon my normal heart rate is 70 or something when I'm just standing here. We'll see in a minute, actually. And sleeping, it's 48 or 49 or something. And I reckon maybe deep sleep goes even lower. I don't know. I'm not a sleep expert.
Mine is 40.
40, yeah. Okay. I'm not very fit. That's why I have a band. Cool. Yeah. I have a good t-shirt then. All right. So, yeah, basically it runs on everything. So, hooray. Okay. Now, we are here because of development, possibly, because it's .NET user group. So how many here actually write code? Pretty much everyone. Okay. So you know the familiar term SDK, Software Development Kit. There's one for iOS, there's one for Android, and there's one for Windows. And there's no difference between them. Like, the Windows one is a NuGet packet that you just add to your project, and the other two is a downloadable set of libraries. But yeah, let's have a look at some code, shall we? Okay, I'm going to try this. So, okay. No, that's not it.
Over there.
Hey, yeah. Hang on.
Starting to Wi-Fi now.
Yeah, it's all good. See if my friend over here is going to get all unhappy with me about resolution. All good? All right, so this is developer.microsoftband.com, as it says up the top corner up here. And this is basically the entry point for where you go. And they've I wrote this talk a couple of weeks ago, and on Thursday they changed it all. Hey, go me. So what we now have is we have 3 different sections. We normally just had one. And obviously they know all developers are male. I don't know why else they put that picture on there. So you have the band SDK down here. And you have the web tile preview, which is the brand new thing that came out on Thursday. And it's actually kind of cool once I understood what it was. And then the cloud app preview, which is to do with the Microsoft Health portal we talked about before. So the band SDK, basically you go get started, click on that, and you sort of download the SDK. And if you click download for Windows, it goes to a NuGet site because it's just a NuGet packet. And it's for Android and iOS. Then you have some zip files that you can use. And that's how simple it is. Like, there's no magic to getting the SDK. You don't have to sign up anywhere. You don't have to be a certain rank of developer or whatever. Oh yeah, the documentation that says down here is a 40-something page PDF document. Like, it's that much of a prototype. It's not on MSDN. That's just how it is. And it is actually reasonably simple to use. So, but I was going to just show you a bit of the sample code because that's probably the easiest way to get started. Let's see, follow my schedule here. Right. Just for comparison, this is if you search on the Microsoft, the Windows Phone Store, just for band. There are quite a few already. So there's the Microsoft Health, which is the official app that you use, which is the same one on Android and iOS. And then there's some Torch for band, so you can get it to just show a white screen. Someone had to do it. Pimp My Band, which I'll show you in a sec. And then there's this band sensor over here, which is actually quite interesting. So now I'll see if I can get this to work. Okay, just bear with me here. So I'm now going to try and connect my phone so you can see it. This is where the demo gods come in. Oops. Very good. All right. So, you should be able to see this. There's another one of my cars. Check my screen. Lovely. So here's my phone. Whee! Windows Phone? Anyone use Windows Phone? Everybody. Oh, that's pretty good, actually. In Australia, it'd just be me. So we have a couple of band here. So the band monitor, which is this one here. This is if you are a developer, I'm too cheap to buy it yet. If you are a developer, this is sort of a good way of seeing what other people are doing with the sensors. All this does is just shows you the sensors. All right, so now I'm talking a lot, so my heart rate is 80. So this is connected to the band right now, right? So this is all live data. Apparently it's not as warm in here as I thought. 31 is my skin temperature. My galvanic skin response is 275 kiloohm. We all know what that is. No idea. Ambient light, so there's a light sensor in there as well that you can query. Movement counter. Is that actually, see, it changes. Hey. Step pace, so that's if you're walking. It'll tell you how many steps per minute. If you think, you can have anyone played the, is it Run from the Zombies or Escape the Zombies or something? Where you have headphones on and the zombies are coming to get you and you have to run faster and faster. Yeah? Yeah. You could use something like that, right? To show, you're only doing so many steps or whatever. You could actually add quite a few things to that. If you haven't tried that, do it. It's hilarious. You have headphones on and you get eaten by zombies. Ultraviolet, obviously we're inside, and it shows you the battery level on my band, which is 18%. Another thing, charging a band up to 80% takes 40 minutes. Pretty good. Pretty good. And it lasts, correct me if I'm wrong, do people have one? 2 days, 3 days? More like 3 than 2. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually, the first reports were like, not even a day. It's actually pretty good. I'm guessing if you run a lot with the GPS, then it would be a lot less. So, and then of course, yes, we'll close it. There is the Pimp My Band. How can you not have that? Basically, it allows you to change the background color, background image on it. Hey?
Yeah, get your kids on your watch.
Exactly. No, I just have my T-shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it, but it's the same. So that's kind of what people are doing with it. Not super groundbreaking, but if you had some sort of app that already existed, I reckon you can do a lot of value add with having just the sensor data coming in, especially something like skin temperature for medical apps. Get elderly or sick people to wear it. If the skin temperature drops dramatically, you know something's wrong, or they jump into the Arctic Sea or something. So yeah, there's definitely room for it here. So let me just kill that again. All right. So let's have a look at some of the code, shall we? So this is a sample project. Now, is this too small, or are you okay? Because it'll be pretty close together. So can you see it down the back? Is that okay? I can enlarge it if you can't see it. So this is what you download, and this is what you open, and you have a bunch of Universal Windows apps on the right here. And so they all target Windows and Windows Phone. So this is obviously the Windows SDK sample code. So if you look at, say, the one I had open here, which is shared. So you do your normal. So is this familiar? Do people know C#? Or am I completely talking rubbish here? Because it's a .NET user group. I was sort of assuming you might know, but I could be wrong. So all you have to do is do this. That's how you get your band client, an instance of iBand client. Just query the instance and connect the first one. And obviously, if you don't have any, it'll throw an exception or you'll get an empty array back. But then you have a band client, and then you do everything with that. It's pretty straightforward. Like, there's not a lot to it. The hard bit about coding for the band is getting the idea. Like, seriously, it's not hard. So, and then you can get in here and you can say, you can create a tile, which is, I can't really show, but there's tiles on it. They show tiles, tiny screen. But you can create your own tile and put on the watch, on the band, which is what you probably want to do if you want to, show notifications or something like that. You give it some GUID, so you know that it's your tile, and you can give it some icons, so you have a smaller and a larger icon. And then you can remove them, and you can add the tiles, because in this case it's a sample demo, and they say, remove it, it's already there, and then we add it again. So you might want to be a bit clever about that. And then you can send a notification, which is just a buzz. It goes, it works out of the box with text messages, Facebook messages, tweets, which is really annoying, and emails, and Cortana, yeah. She does work on here. There's a keyboard on here. Okay. Sorry. Okay, you ready? I'm replying to text message. There's my keyboard.
Oh my God.
It actually works. It works remarkably well. You just sort of aim and kind of hit the right letters, and it actually works really well. And you get, say, out of 5 words, you might get one wrong. You just tap on that word, and it'll give you all suggestions, and you get it right normally. But you can also talk to it through Cortana, which is odd when you're in Denmark because you have to speak English to it. But anyway. So that's the way you create a tile, and now you've got your app on there, and you can then send notifications, which is your band client, as we just created before, notification manager, pretty obvious, and you just send a message, and then it'll pop up here and say, and you can obviously bunch them up, you can send more at a time, and it'll increase the counter until people have read them, and there's all this sort of smarts in it. If we look at another one, the sensors, I believe was the one that was pretty interesting as well. Oh, I could show the UI, but it's a Microsoft sample app, so it looks like that. It's really not very pretty. So on the sensors side, we have root. I believe this is the accelerometer. Yep. Sensor manager, and the sensor manager has. Oh, come on. Thank you. You see all the different sensors there, right? Can you see that? Yeah. So you have all the ones we talked about before. You can query each of those and get the instant reading of what they are. And obviously you could have your app. So this is running on the phone, obviously, not on the band. So the band is proprietary. I think it's C. Do you know this? I think it's written in C. Someone's saying, oh, it's going to run Windows 10. Everything's going. I don't think so. It's tiny. Like there's no reason that would run Windows 10. So we'll see. There's apparently a version 2 rumors saying that's coming out. We'll see. So you query all the sensors that way, and which is probably what most of the bulk of the work you're going to do is going to be, is query those sensors. And it could be it could be as simple as just getting the skin temperature as we talked about before. All right. So does that make sense? Like, it's not rocket science, is it? Does it seem pretty straightforward? Oh, hello. If do you want to ask questions about this, feel free. To me, when I read it, I was like, oh yeah. Like, as a C# developer, it's pretty natural. It feels good, and I'm glad that they actually made it that simple. You didn't have to import some C++ library and do some other magic or something. It's quite nice managed code.
Is there any kind of emulator?
No. And I've searched high and mighty for it. There is no emulator, unfortunately, which would have been really nice because you can't buy these things. So it would have been handy with an emulator, but no, you do need a physical device to test it on. I don't know if, there's nothing on the site anywhere. I think someone has tried to build their own emulator, but it obviously it's not going to be the same because they don't know what code is running on there, so it's going to be sort of guesswork. So I'm not sure, unless you get a Microsoft certified or whatever, condoned emulator.
Question.
Yep.
Yeah, all these things that you write are running on the phone rather than the band, right? The band has only the sensors and nothing else.
Correct. So the band has a UI. I don't know if you can see it. So it has you can scroll, right, and you can there's your text messages.
Okay.
And there's your emails and so on.
Can you add something to that UI?
You have to add that via the phone, but yes, you can. Okay. Absolutely. So that in the first example we saw before, up here. So I'm adding a tile there. That's actually your tile. So that's your app that has a tile. So if you had Runkeeper, it would probably be a Runkeeper logo. If you had, XYZ app, it might be a picture of Batman. I don't know. Whatever you want to put on there, you can put on there. Yeah. But you have to do it all via the phone. So you can't program the band directly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the band SDK is for a phone app. Whether it's Android or iOS or Windows Phone, doesn't matter. Or full Windows, for that matter. Yeah, that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. So
what can we do with that without phone?
Without any phone?
What you can do with it?
If you don't have a phone, probably not much. As in, is that what you're asking? What can you develop?
No, I mean just like a user. What you can do.
Oh, what can you do with a band if you don't have a smartphone? Very little, to be honest. It'll certainly show you the time. You can track, but you can track your sleep, but you can't see it. It's all based on having Bluetooth connection to a device, which is the same with most of the wearables. So there's no difference there. Otherwise, it would simply just be too much power that it would need to do stuff. I think. I think there's some of the Android watches, the Motorola. Is that? Can it work on its own? Can't remember. Yeah.
Samsung has.
Samsung maybe. Yeah. Okay. I thought there was one of them that was like a
Apple can run small apps as well.
Apple. Pebble. Yes, I do have a Pebble as well, which is very cool. Pebble is, but the SDK for Pebble is really, really hard to use. Unfortunately, they haven't made it very easy. They may have changed that in later versions. I looked at it a year ago, maybe. Okay. But there's also new devices, so I'm sure they'll improve all of that, I have no doubt. Pebble is very cool, if you don't know Pebble. It's another smartwatch.
Actually, Android Wear is also, they say that they might release a SDK so that you can run apps on Android.
On the device, yeah. Okay, yeah, so it's definitely coming. But you do need a lot more computing power, obviously, to do that. So I had a thought, and it didn't. All right. So... Okay. Any more question about the code? I know that wasn't much a code, but there really isn't too much to it. If you want to do band apps, get a good idea first, and then you got the sensors, and that would be my advice anyway. Otherwise, we shall soldier on. Okay, are you going to be unhappy with me again, cameraman? See what happens. Oh dear.
I think.
Well, if it works here. Oh. Hey. Does anyone watch IT Crowd? Yeah. If you don't know the show, it's a British show. I don't know if they still do it. I don't think so. Basically, two guys, the IT department, they live in the basement. It's got all the stereotypes and it's hilarious. In this particular segment, he's actually emailing the fire department saying there's a fire. Hey. Dear fire, no, that's too formal. Fire! Exclamation mark, yeah. So, yeah, it's hilarious. It's very good. Okay, so now I want to just end on a bit of a silly note. No, not silly, but more of a what the hell? Because there's a Japanese company that do toilets. You think you know where this is going, I bet you. You think you know, but it gets better. So they're called Sirtautas, and they do these IoT-connected toilets. Don't know why. They have an app, see? Beautiful app. And the app is in Japanese, but I'm not sure what these symbols, there's a calendar and there's symbols, whatever that means. I'm not sure, but there's, yeah. So you can use your imagination for that. And there's also some sort of music device. So I'm assuming the toilet can play music.
There's
Has
one
it?
down there, I think.
Normal.
Yeah. They have toilets with music on.
Oh, with music, yeah. I thought not the calendar bit.
No.
So I'm not quite sure what all this means. But one thing we haven't talked about, because we only have short time, is if something is connected to the internet, that means anyone can access it, right? So there's an Australian company that do light bulbs, and recently it was found out that the light bulbs were exposing the Wi-Fi they were on to the public. So you had to update your light bulbs, security patch your light bulbs, right? So this is now the world we're living in. You have to security patch your light bulbs. What do you think happened here? They send out a security bulletin saying attackers could cause the unit to unexpectedly open-close the lid, activate bidet or air dry functions, causing discomfort or distress to user. This is the official security notice for a toilet, which meant you had to update your toilet. And I was like, really? Should use that other GIF I had before. Seriously? This is now the problem that you have. If you do connect everything to IoT, and yeah, it's the band as well. Wow, that's loud. What are they doing?
Skating.
Skating. Oh, right. Damn you kids, get off my lawn. Yeah, this is now, I just thought I mentioned it because security is a huge part of the internet, right? And it applies just as much to a tiny device that's connected as it does to a computer. And then the final, let's call it device, is this. Anyone want to guess what that is? It's highly inappropriate.
It gives you electric shock.
This is a device that's been announced by Pornhub. It's called the Wank Band. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. They are going to use the kinetic energy from certain activities to charge devices.
Useful.
And on that note, thank you very much.